we have a show to get to. Let's get to it. So this is actually really important we brought the sunglasses, by the way, because when it comes down to breaking down new water, there it's going to be a whole variety of the type of angler you can get and what they have available to the tools at their disposal to break down new water with. For years, I got by with just a good pair of polarized sunglasses and the free time to go fishing on like ideal days where it was just bluebird skies and no wind. So that with my polarized sunglasses, I could see a lot of things. Granted, only down to a certain depth, right? Depending upon water clarity. But still, we're going to try and cover it from every perspective. Somebody that has absolutely nothing at their disposal other than a phone, and then to somebody that has literally everything that they could ever want on their bass boat. So hopefully there's something in here that will answer everybody and anybody's questions. And then, from there, we'll be able to field as many questions as you guys have along the way. So please don't be shy. Fit them in as you just, whenever you see fit, start throwing them out and we'll address them as we go. Tiago, yes, we actually spent like a good 10 minutes right before you got here covering the Northeast Regional specifically. We had talked about a bunch of the local guys, both from New Hampshire, Mass, Maine, and Vermont, that we know of that are up there. Doobie cracked them, which is insane. 6 pounds, 7 ounce for the big fish leading the day and the biggest bag. That's crazy.
It's a big smallie.
Yeah. I can't wait to get my first 6. We're going to the St. Lawrence River, hopefully, end of this year. I want to go during like the madness, like the end of October, early November.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
We'll think about where we go, where we usually go that time of the year. Apply everything we know to there. Plus, do you know how cheap it is to stay up there that time of the year? I know, because I looked yesterday. Dude, it's dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. Oh. But if we're going to do that, I already talked to Derek and them, and I'd like to get like a crew of people so we all split one big house
that would
and
be
just
sick.
make a trip of it.
I'd like to actually be able to have people come up again, like with Chris and her son showing up. That was cool.
Yeah,
but having like
ask her. Well, I mean, I'll still ask her. I'll give her the option, but I do know it gets rowdy out there late in the year. That's one thing that a lot of people talk about is like where you want to go to get into the fish.
Those late season storms.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Anyway, diehard anglers, what's going on, buddy? Okay, so we're done. Let's get on to it. So first and foremost, we're going to start with the perspective that pretty much any angler should have, unless you're at a point where your confidence is so high and you've seen enough things that, you know what, like, all I need to see is a depth map on my graph, and I will go from there. Props to you if you want to do that, but I really do feel that your best bet, regardless of what kind of angler you are, where you're at skill level, start right here on your computer or on your phone and grab every single piece of information that you can find, whether it be through articles if it's a really well-known lake, or forum posts, blog posts from locals, videos if you're more into watching versus reading, and so on and so forth. That's one part of it. Google Earth. I have it up. It's already ready to rock. We're going to pull that up. We're going to show you how to best utilize that tool. We've showed it in the past, but we have a lot of new people since then. So I'm going to go through and show you the most useful tool that I found, and I have not felt the need to dive any deeper than that. There may be more to it than I know of, but this has worked well enough for me, and I have not cared to look beyond that. So there's that caveat. And then everything else that's available to you out there. New Hampshire is phenomenal for having at least a base level number or like amount of information available for just about every body of water in the state, from where the access is, what kind of access it is, any potential motor restrictions, if it's a specialty lake, whether it's, say, designated trout pond or a designated landlocked salmon / lake trout lake, or just a lake trout lake, so on and so forth. New Hampshire's got a ton of crazy special rules, and they're probably more significant than most other areas in New England, but I don't know the other states that well, so I can't say that with extreme confidence, but I do know New Hampshire can be very restrictive. So we're going to cover like all of that. So let's start from the beginning. With all that in mind, all of the tools you can find on the internet. You had a lake in mind. I asked Andrew to pick a lake that I wanted him to break down.
It was a very well-known lake. Everybody in the state and probably New England knows it.
Yeah.
And it's the only lake on Navionics that just probably hasn't been updated in 10 years.
No, and
if not longer.
That's not even the thing I was laughing about. So last night when I'm like, hey man, you got to pick a lake. He's like, all right, Massapesic. And I'm like, That's interesting. Really, you only fished there like 3 times. Same with me. He's
I've
like,
only
yeah,
fished there once.
and you're like, yeah, but you can only fish half the lake, so I have to cover half of it. I'm like,
I'm an asshole.
so, for the first example, and one thing I did put in my post is if there's any lakes you guys want us to break down specifically, stick around, get ready to drop those suggestions because we are going to go through it and not to the same level of detail that we're going to break down this lake, but we will at least jump into it and kind of give you what, like how we would look at this from our perspective. Sir Altitude, you are right, and I almost brought that up. I even have that book somewhere. I actually have 2 versions of it. I don't remember
Clark's.
where it is.
I've had one once, and I lost it within like 2 days.
For New Hampshire, the Clark's Guide is pretty good, but also really restrictive, and I think that's why they haven't made a new one in a while, because you can find way more information in less than 3 minutes on any body of water in the state online than you can ever hope to find in its entirety in that book. Don't get me wrong. Pre-internet, that book was my Bible. The Clark's Guide for New Hampshire was one of the best resources you could ever get your hands on. If somebody else made something the equivalent of that somewhere else in the country, I would love to hear about it. But as far as New Hampshire went, I had 2 things. I had one of those giant map books, you know, like a nice, like laminated with the freaking spiral binder on the side.
I'm pretty sure Kyle still uses his.
I still have one in my truck.
Yeah.
It's not quite that extravagant, but I had one of those from basically like Lakes region, like Squam Lake and south. Didn't care about North Country and never going to get up there. So I had that whole map book, and then I had my Clark's book. And those were my Bibles when I like really started branching out after I got my license when I was 16 years old and trying to find new places and understand what it had available. We're going to take what Clark's did and ramp it up and give you the on steroids version, utilizing everything that we have at our disposal online. And again, the first example we're going to give you is Lake Massabesic. So I'm going to start doing some screen sharing. I believe we're not going to be able to see it that well, but I believe we're going to get shrunk down to this little preview window over here, or maybe it's going to be over there.
I think it's.
And then the rest of the screen is going to be taken up by whatever it is that we're sharing. Let's start with actually Google Earth because it's already here. It's already on the share.
Oh, we're not even on the screen. Cool.
Interesting. Oh, you know what? I can fix that, though.
Nope.
I can fix that. No!
Whoops.
Well, now we're hidden. Hello? Help! I can You know what? Forget it.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Technical difficulties. I'll take the banner off. It honestly would be better for this anyway if we take it off. Where the hell?
Right there.
Hide. There we go. Okay, perfect. All right, so we're going to start with Google Earth. I need to pull it up if I can see it on my thing. There we are. So for those that haven't used Google Earth, you need to download it, and I think there's a mobile version for this. Don't use it. It's not going to serve your purposes for what you really need. You do need to use this on a computer to get the most of it. Because what this can do that you can't get from just looking at Google Maps, satellite imagery, or any other maps that I've used, I can't say the same for like Bing Maps. I don't know if anybody uses that.
I tried it. I think I tried it once, and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to Google.
Yeah. Google Earth is cool because you can go back in time. So they take new satellite imagery every couple of years and sometimes every couple of months, depending upon where you are in the country, right? So if you go in, we're going to go right to New Hampshire. We're going to go right to Lake Massabesic because that was Andrew's first choice of the night.
That was spot on. You got right on it.
Yeah, my mental map is pretty good.
Okay, cool.
That's why I can drive, 150 miles away into Vermont and not have to look at a map anymore.
That's true.
I know where it is.
Yeah, west.
I have no idea what routes or roads we take. I just know where to go. I'm a landmark kind of guy. True New Englander.
When we went to Unadilla, the motocross race,
Yeah.
we hopped in the car and we're just like, let's just head northwest for like
figure
4
it out.
hours. And we did, and we like finally got like way out in the middle of nowhere. We're like, all right, let's look. And we're like, oh, we'll be there in an hour.
Oh my God. So, Auburn Lake, Massabesic Lake in Auburn, New Hampshire. One of the things I want to point out, and this is where Google Earth is really key, and I want to stress this first and foremost because this is something you do need to download and install on your computer. It is free. It used to be a paid-for service. When I last downloaded this 2 years ago, it was free. So if it changed, I apologize. If you're looking here over on Route 121, this is the Claire's Landing. That's the main boat launch that pretty much everybody is familiar with when it comes to that area.
I think that's the one we used, maybe.
Yep.
No, we used a different one.
You used a different one?
Yeah.
Oh, did you use the one all the way over here? Wait, hold up. It's near the rotary.
Yeah, right.
So if you come off the highway,
yep.
here's the rotary. There's a boat launch in here somewhere.
Nope.
Well, then I don't know what to tell you.
It's up there. Right there.
Oh, wait, what? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that one's way better.
Dude, I never knew about that one. I thought it was down here.
Nope.
Well, hey, neat. Now I know something. This is actually really close to the off-limits area. Well, you have to go in over here.
Yeah.
Anywho,
Anyhow.
Mr. Distractions,
Sorry.
let's go to the one that most other people know, Andrew.
Okay, so that one.
Claire's Landing. This is where most tournaments go out of when you're on Massive BSIC, and there's only a handful out here every year. But finally, get to my point. I'm blaming you, even though it's mostly my fault.
That's fine.
This is where this tool comes in handy. So you're on Google Earth. You go to this icon right here. Show historical imagery. It's got that clock with a little arrow that looks like it's going backwards in time. Click that. It's going to give you a slightly different view on your sideline imagery.
July 7th, 2019. It shows on the bottom.
Perfect. Which is funny because up here, oh, there we go. It actually went backwards to June.
Oh, go to 85.
No, not yet. We're not going to go that far, but we will. So click back to travel in time.
Ease into anything. Full send.
To the hilt. And if you
looking
click
at it.
this back arrow once, it's going to go to the most recent old timestamp that it has for it. This one obviously sucks because it was a very windy day and it's broken everything up so you can't see. So go back. Now we're in September, which July to September, not really helpful for what's going to change for vegetation. What we're really paying attention to here, folks, is the lily pad growth that's over here. Now we're talking. April 2016.
Nothing.
No pads. This is the single most important tool about using Google Earth is this ability to go backwards in time and see your chosen body of water at different times of the year. So this may actually be the best example if memory serves correct. I mean, you can tell it's very shallow over an expansive area. You've got all this vegetation and just shallow growth covering an extensive... I want to say expansive and extensive at the same time, and I came out with extensive area.
There's extensive grass there.
And it comes out, I think that's an old rail line or an old road. I don't know. But anyway, if we go back for just one time, it's going to bring us to September, and bam! Look at all that vegetation growth. This is very helpful when breaking down a new body of water. When you find a depth map, and that's what we're going to cover next, that doesn't have the greatest of details for different changes in depths. You're going to see like New Hampshire specifically and Massachusetts, because those are the lakes that I am most familiar with, have a lot of depth maps that it just shows like one giant shallow area. And that doesn't always tell the whole story. So you have to be able to go and look at things like this where you can see like, okay, it's like 3 feet deep. Is it really 3 feet deep? Maybe at the time that they took it, when they went and kind of graphed the lake and got depths, it may have been. But when you have really shallow areas like this that are overgrown with lily pads especially, that stuff dies, wilts, and builds. And then grows, dies, wilts, and builds.
So after like 10 years, it could, if your depth map is 10, 20 years old, it could say it's 5-6 feet deep there, and you could be running up in there, and it could only be maybe 1.5 feet to 2 feet deep.
Right. So, but doing something like this gives you a better idea as to what you're really going to be facing, because you can see either peak summer or end of summer, early fall, versus, if you're lucky, somewhere very early spring or very, very late fall after everything has died. So you can see this stark difference between pre-growth and post-growth. So that's why this tool, Google Earth specifically, is very, very helpful. And I cannot recommend it enough. I cannot see the comments. There we go. And South Jersey, that's some good vegetation growth. Almost looks like land. Damn right. Only if you can fish that corner. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. But I've got some other lakes that we're going to go through that shows
More going to be bullshit. You showing all this.
That launches a gate. Open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Oh.
Maybe that's why I've always gone to Claire's. That's why everybody's always told me to go to Claire's Landing. It just works. So anyway, there you go. So that maybe isn't always step one, but it is really something helpful, and I implore you that you download it if you're at that point where something like that would be helpful. I've been doing this a long time. I am still nowhere near where I want to be, though, and I still really enjoy fishing new bodies of water. I use that not every week, but I would say once every month or two. I still use that at least a handful of times every year. It is an invaluable tool. So next up, oh yeah, I gotta share it this way. Share. Yeah. Slides? No. Share. Share.
Where is it?
Wait, stop. Oh, what the hell? Share screen. Oh, because it was still, I didn't hit stop screen on the other one.
Oh, duh.
Shut up. There we go. All right, next up. If I go, okay. I can only see the map. I can't see the stream itself while I do this, but you get an idea of what we're looking at.
If you have never seen one of these before, this is probably, every time I'm looking, if I'm on Google Maps and I'm actually like searching for a body of water.
I'll be right back. I'm going to get a beer. Do you want anything while I'm up?
I'm good. Grilled cheese?
Well, now you're pushing it.
Piece of bread? When I'm actually looking for a new body of water to fish, I will go to Google Maps and I will just look around and be like, oh, that place looks cool. Oh, that place looks cool. When I find one that I actually am going to go fish, I go here. This is my first spot that I go to. So it shows you what type of body of water it is, the acreage, the average depth, the max depth. It shows you all the species that are in there, which when I'm looking at species, I would like to say probably 99.9% of the lakes in New Hampshire or in New England alone will have either largemouth or smallmouth in them. So I will go in here and I will see what the bait fish will be. So you got rainbow trout. I think that's probably brook trout, not brown trout. There's smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, eastern chain pickerel, brown bullhead. It's white perch. Supposedly there was northern pike introduced to that place in, the 80s? But I don't think they held.
What, pike?
Yeah.
I do remember hearing that.
Black crappie, bluegill, American eel, and yellow perch. I will go in there, and I will look. So you got white perch, black crappie, you got bluegill, so all the sunfish and all the perch. So, but there's also trout. So you can get away with throwing a lot bigger baits in there. They're not going to be afraid to come up and eat it. If they're used to eating trout, they will hit a bigger bait. I mean, that goes with any pond really. There's bass in. Throw big baits.
Truth.
But I will pay attention, especially on those glacial lakes when there's smelt in there. You can really just kind of like figure out what baits you want to bring with you. If you're going to be drop shotting, you want to use something that's more smelty color than bluegill color, or pretty much for any bait. It shows you motor restrictions. Actually, this lake, I think it's in here, right? You can only fish half of it. I think it cuts off. No, it's over this whole.
Yeah, it's over on the Manchester line.
I don't know if it says on here that there's actually.
No, the only thing it says is in the additional info section where it's boat and motor restrictions. I think that more speaks to the off limits area.
Yeah. Okay.
Which
yeah,
if
you guys are ever going to go out here, just don't go on the other side of the big orange buoys
that say
are
no
crossing
fishing
the
beyond
whole
this
lake.
point. Yeah, you literally cannot mess that up. It
don't
is
do it.
unmistakable, and they will not entertain that whatsoever.
No,
there's no excuse to save you other than I'm blind. In which case, how the hell did you get out there anyway?
I'm dumb.
That'll explain a lot.
But this is where I will go to get most of the information to know about this lake. So you can see you got deep pockets here, deep pockets here, deep pockets here, deep pockets here, super shallow areas, and the whole shoreline shows you everything.
What I'm curious of, sorry guys, I can't see on the stream itself while we're looking at this tab. Where'd my mouse go? Oh, Jesus Christ, that's tiny. Hang on, sorry.
Oh,
haha.
Hello, there we are.
Does that make life a little bit better? Yes, it does. Sorry. I thought it was full screen. I'm so sorry. But so anyway, you can.
These maps, I don't think they've been updated in 40 years.
I'm curious if it actually says the information on when these were made. I can't see because my giant camera for the stream is right in the middle of it. There. Okay.
It's been a very long time since these have been accurately updated.
You
The
got
last thing
right?
I've heard of how they measured these maps was with line and a weight, and then they met. Then
Mark
they measured-
1, Mark Twain, Mark Trace. And
Mark
that's how he
Twain.
got his name. Not even kidding.
Really?
Yeah.
Mark Twain?
That's his writer's name.
Yeah, I know that.
That's the rumor that he heard somebody like marking off, and it was Mark 1, Mark 1, Mark Twain. So they had a knot for every Mark. And Mark 2 is Twain. Mark Twain. That's the rumor.
So-
I remember that from being a kid. I could be entirely wrong. I'm just
That was what I heard. These maps were. I could be completely wrong. I could be just giving you false information. But these are not the most accurate maps.
no, as you can tell. So if we actually zoom in, and this is where we're going to be able to go if it will work for me. So this area in particular, which I really hope
That's
yes,
where we were.
Oops. Scooch just a smidge there, computer. Get it right in the middle. There we are. Stop. Zoom in a little more. Enhance. So this section is where, as Andrew just said, we were looking at on Google Earth, which you really can't tell anything right now. I think for that color on the maps, if you were to find a number, it would probably say 10, which for over here, it's either 10 or it's supposed to signify less than 10 feet. So this whole friggin' area they're saying is less than 10 feet essentially. Well, that doesn't really help you much, especially when you see there's a landmass here. Right. Is that an actual island or not? You wouldn't know until you went over to satellite imagery. Right. But if you just go to Google Maps, that only tells you whatever time of the year they took that satellite imagery at, and Maps doesn't tell you what time of the year they took that. Yeah, you have a pretty good idea as to when they did it, if it was either early in the year or really late in the year or in the summer, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't know. But that's where Google Earth comes into play, because now you can really look at that in much greater detail. If this is the only kind of map that you have, that's where a tool like Google Earth, it really shows how important and helpful it can be for you. There are definitely other lakes that have much, much, much better depth maps than this. But this is kind of like the more extreme end of you're limited on the knowledge that you can find for
This
it.
is just kind of like a rough idea of what's going on. I think these drop at 10. I think it's like every 10 feet.
Yes.
Yeah. Not really ideal for us bass anglers. It doesn't really give you that much information. It'll give you a good idea, and if you just physically go out there and fish, and you'll figure out what's out there. But that could take some time. So like right here, all these contour lines, these are so far spread out. Like there could be so much more in here than you see with these lines. But I don't know how you get, could you go to Navionics?
Yes.
I don't know how to get
So
it.
I had that up, but what I need to do is...
But the Navionics map for this place still really isn't that great.
Where the hell did my mouse go? There we are. Stop sharing, go back here. Okay. Navionics, it really depends. Wait, that's how Mark Twain got his name. Nom de plume. Got his nom de plume. Hey, see, I was right. Manchester-sized public water, they don't want boats there. Right, yes, you are right. And our buddy Kyle texted me too. He said, yes, the town line is literally the off-limit spot.
Oh, the town line is, really?
Yeah, Dave,
okay.
I did get that map. I totally forgot to message you, but thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate that. Ooh. Hang on. South Jersey, do you guys like to focus on matching the forage colors or sizes more for your baits when fishing body of water?
Both.
Yeah. It really depends on the time of the year where it varies. But color, by far more important than anything else I've found.
Especially with smallmouth.
Uh-huh. And then size does come into play at some point, but it varies. Specifically with smallmouth. Largemouth, it's like, who friggin' knows? There's a series of weather events that leads up to some days they want something teeny tiny. Like we had a day last year, I don't want to give too much information, but we were throwing like our typical sizes for jigs and they were not having it. And then he picked up the little Magnum, which is just a little bit smaller than your standard jig, and he went with a little bit smaller trailer. So all in all, this thing was probably only like half an inch or 3/4 of an inch shorter.
Yeah.
And a few less strands in the skirt, so it wasn't quite as bulky a profile, and started crushing it. I literally took the same traditional jig trailer setup that I had in the exact same colors and same exact jig, just not trimmed down, and pitched into this one tree, I don't know, 10 times, Didn't get bit. He takes his and first friggin' pitch into the tree, immediately gets smoked.
Is that a tournament?
Maybe.
Same place we're going this week.
So anyway, but for smallmouth, it seems like there's a little bit more that you can count on with them. They seem to be a little bit more consistent. Where especially, I mean, for me, when I'm chasing smallmouth, it is almost entirely in smelt-loaded lakes. So for the most part, they want something that really kind of more closely matches the hatch, which most smelt in the state are like 3 to 4 inches roughly. But there is a period in the summer where I cannot get bit on anything less than a 5-inch worm when I'm fishing just for smallmouth. It is the weirdest thing. But I'll go, like, I can't tell you how many years now. Probably less than 4 years where I've gone up to, like, Lakes Region, New Hampshire and dropped a drop shot down for, like, 2 or 3 straight weeks, and they're just crushing it. And I go back, and then 1 week it just shuts off. Like, they're nosing up to the bait. You can see them on the graph, and they're just not having it. Let me try something different. I'll go to the same color, but in a bigger bait, and immediately get smoked. Bait gets torn off. Well, maybe they want a different color. Maybe I can get a better size with that. Go back to that smaller bait, different color. Nothing. Okay, well, I happen to have that same color in a bigger bait. Drop that. Immediately get smoked. So it's both color first for me, size second. What did Tim say? I can't think of ever fishing a tournament where I didn't spend the whole week prior on Google Earth. We've done that a lot, and honestly, we might do that a little bit for this weekend, but I don't know. I kind of already got a game plan in mind.
Yeah.
The big thing for us is we're really...
Once we've been to a place, we kind of know what to expect going in there. Now,
yeah,
that we have enough experience that, depending on the condition and the body of water, we should be able to put something together. It might not be a winning bag, but it'll should still be a decent bag.
Yeah, and the big thing for me too at this point is I like testing myself to try and break down the lake the day of, versus. It's more about reading conditions as quickly and accurate as possible to adjust the predefined game plan we already have, because I know we're going to talk about it later this week leading up to Sunday, but then seeing, like, can we really put it together on a lake that we literally haven't been back to since the tournament we did last year, and that was the first time we fished there.
First time ever.
First time ever for him, and the first time in like 6 or 7 years for me. So it's more about testing, like, everything we've been working on for these years. Like, can you figure it out on the fly with nothing more than these all 9 tools that we have at our disposal and what very, very, very minimal previous, knowledge we have from the few times we fished it. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, so we were talking about depth maps, and I wanted to make sure that I addressed some of the questions in the chat. So yes, we looked at the New Hampshire maps, which, by the way, at any point you want to look for depth map on something, just search, like, starting with your state, like New Hampshire depth map or depth chart. Same thing, Massachusetts depth map or bathymetry.
Yeah. Bath map.
Bathymetry?
Bathymetry?
I guess it depends on what you want to really pronounce in that.
Depth maps.
How deep
is this freaking lake?
Bathymetry. Bathymetry? Whatever. See, now I'm going to say it too many times, it's going to lose meaning to me. Bathymetry. I'm really good at spelling.
Yeah.
Anywho, that's what you'd want to search, and you will come to a link that has all of these located to it. Vermont's is a little wonky, where, like, you kind of already have to know the name of the lake you want to look at to find a depth map, or at least, like, the town or county it's in. It's weird.
Yeah,
but
they got you. Sometimes on different states, you actually have to, like, search the internet to find information.
Yeah.
There's more than one website that gives you all the information that you need. Like, New Hampshire does a really good job on giving you a general outline on what's going on.
Yep.
In one place. Not all states are like that.
No, New Hampshire's is pretty good in the sense that it's all in one easy-to-find location. Like, you just search depth maps, it takes you to one link, and they're all listed just alphabetically.
It's literally New Hampshire Fish and Game website.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, Massachusetts, one of the things they do exceptionally well is they have, like, an interactive, like, map that you can just, like, zoom around the state, almost like you're on Google Maps, and it's got a little, balloon on every lake that they have a map for. There might be other ways to find it, but at least on New Hampshire's, it's not, or Massachusetts, it's not Fish and Game, but it's something. Go ahead.
I gotta drain the main vein.
They have something whatever the hell it is. I forget the hell it's called. Inland Fisheries? I forget. Anyway, they have like a really good website where you can go find all that. So going back to Massabesic as our example, we showed you what New Hampshire itself has to offer that breaks a lake down. But then there are other means of finding stuff. So what I'm going to have to do is you're going to have to come back to the stream after it's uploaded, and I'll make sure I backfill all of these different links to different places I found in the video description, because I can't easily put it all in here. But to get a little bit slightly more details, and it's not always a guarantee, let's do... you know what? This one's not bad. Okay, so we'll start with Navionics C Maps. C, the letter C, dash maps. You do have to create an account to be able to access this, but it is free, and I highly recommend you do it for a number of reasons. But let me go back and share.
Hey, everybody.
Screen, Chrome tab, Navionics chart viewer, go.
See? Now there's the detail.
There we go. Okay.
That you want to see. Well, this lake doesn't have the best.
Drive.
Does not have the best. I mean, it's definitely a little more clear, and in this one, it's going every 5 feet. But there are some lakes. I don't want to like blow up another lake around here. But
I mean, it's very, very slightly improved over the New Hampshire one. But if you really compare the contours on this, it's damn near identical.
I mean, you want to see how crazy these contours get on this?
Yeah, dude, show them.
Okay, here we go. Try and figure this out in a week. What these guys are doing up there right now. Oh, it's not doing it because it's not updated.
I have this updated. Gimme. I know I have this updated. Trust me, because we did this, and my account is updated. Oh, what the crap!
It's not doing it.
All right, never mind. Well, let's go to Winnipesaukee, because who gives a shit about that lake anyway?
I don't.
Oops.
All right.
See, now we're talking.
So now this is actually showing contour lines, and a whole lot of them.
See, you get to zoom way in, but now you can see. I mean, they break it down by the foot. So the information is there on some bodies of water, but this is the difference between like Massabesic, where it breaks it down every 5 feet, and then Winnipesaukee, where in some cases they have it broken down every foot. Honestly, I literally just zoomed in at random, and that looks pretty good.
The shit out of that area.
I'm like, oh yeah, dude, offshore in the summer, look at that hump. That looks juicy. I don't know. All right, maybe we'll do a little thing on Winnie. Anyway, go back. Where the hell am I?
Right there.
The camera's in the way. This makes it really hard. So yeah,
I mean, you can see the difference.
At least here, you know, even if this might not be entirely accurate, boom, you know it's a steep bank there. So that helps. If you're looking for steeper, quicker transitions, that's good. Same deal out here. You've got a little bit of a flat that comes out, and then there's tighter contours here, you know. As the tighter the contour lines together, the steeper the drop, the more spread out, the more mellow the drop. That's really the most important things you gotta know about looking at differences and contours. I would think it's pretty obvious, but I will say it just to be on the safe side. And then, you know, you can see, you know, that's like kind of a submerged point down here, but...
I mean, if that had more contour lines, like every foot, there probably is a sharper point on that.
Yeah, but this isn't too bad right here.
No. I mean, it goes from 10 to 30
10 to 30
down
here.
Probably a couple hundred feet.
Yep.
Which really isn't horrible. It's actually not a bad bank.
Yeah. Okay, so let me stop there because there's more, and again, we're just going to continue to use this
trash lake.
We're going to continue to use Massabesic as our primary example. Because the level of information, the level of detail in the information you could find for it varies greatly. So we covered Google Earth. We covered the New Hampshire Fish and Game, free information you can find on their website. We covered C Maps, which is through Navionics, so you have to create an account for it. Next up is iBoating. It's kind of weird. If you search i-boating, you'll get to it, but the actual website is fishing-app.gpsnauticalcharts.com. I really think it's gpsnauticalcharts.com is really what gets you here. But this looks like it's got some slightly better information. So I'm going to go ahead and share that tab. Dude, I love StreamYard. This makes this so easy.
Yeah, we would never be able to do this on the other one.
No. There we go. As long as I can remember which freaking thing I need to click. Double check the stream. Yep, looks good. So this same deal, same map we're looking at, but it actually looks like it has a little bit more information here, especially when you get up here alongside the top of the road on the very northern side. It's, can you see that?
Yeah, no, I can see it.
Okay. It's got some
Right in
tighter
front
contours coming back down to this point. Remember we had pointed to this a second ago. Can you stop that? Thank you. We pointed to this a minute ago when we said it's probably a steep bank. It's definitely tighter contours on this map than the other one. You can continue to do this. If there's any one point I'm trying to make as we show this, when you're trying to break down new body of water, again, everything starts here online on your phone if you can, but I promise you getting on a computer will make your life 10 times easier. Set up a notepad beside yourself, a Word document on a computer, doesn't matter. Take notes however you need to. But how quickly and the level of detail for the information you can find by using your computer makes life 10 times easier. But don't
Actually, sorry.
take, go ahead, you drive on.
I don't need that.
Oh, okay. Don't take one resource as gospel for whatever body of water you're looking for. We've now looked at 3 different GPS maps, or depth chart maps, excuse me, for the same body of water, and all with varying levels of accuracy and level of detail of information that's available to you. So you have to put in the time to find it, because you might find one map that looks kind of good, like we found on C Maps, not bad, but if you took the time and searched more and you landed here on the GPS nauticalcharts.com, you have even more information that gives you better resolution as to what you're looking at. Like even up here, that shallow flat we looked at shows at least there's a 5-foot hole in between these two land masses.
Yeah, and that line where the 5 is, that means it's deeper than what it is up in that little area.
Correct.
Up top.
Yeah, inside the circle.
Yeah, circle, line, whatever.
Yeah. So bear that in mind. As far as Massive Beast goes, that's really all I have that let me go back here. Stop sharing. That I found for like easy to find information that we can break this down. But iBoating is great. And then the other one, sorry, there's one other thing we didn't talk about. Did we talk about Navionics?
We were literally just on it.
I'm an idiot. So we did Navionics. I said C Maps. We never even looked at it. I looked at Navionics earlier. I really apologize for that, guys. I'm so sorry. What I meant to talk about was C Map Genesis, the social map. And this is... You can create maps for bodies of water that don't have it. So, man, I'm going to have to go back and put timestamps in the comments because I really screwed this up. I'm sorry, guys. Share screen. Let's actually talk about the one that I really meant. CMap Genesis, which is the social maps that you can get. This one you absolutely need to create an account for, but you can download maps for it. The only way you can create what it is that you're seeing, let me make sure the stream is actually showing. Yep. So you can see it's all satellite imagery, and there's nothing here except for like little sneak peeks of what there is for where someone has gone ahead and actually mapped this out with their boat. So what you can do with Lowrance. I know you can do it with Humminbird, and I'm not sure how it works for Humminbird. I think Humminbird actually just builds it on your own personal graph.
Yeah, it doesn't share it to the world.
No, and I don't know what Garmin has, but for Lowrance, there's a setting inside your sounder, and I can't remember where it is, so you have to apologize. I apologize for that. But you go in it, and you can basically start drawing maps using your own transducer on your boat. And that's what you're looking at here. Like the width of this right here.
That's somebody's side imaging.
Yep, either side imaging or they're down imaging. I forget which one it is. But
that looks like side imaging.
Drink another. Yeah, I know. But that's the width of whatever it is that they're using, that it can see it in one pass. What you can do is, if you say you had a 100-acre lake, right, that you love and you have no depth chart on whatsoever, if you have it set up as such for that option on your Lowrance graph, you can go through and lap the place as many times as you can to get all the overlap you need to create one cohesive map. You take that raw file, because it is very condensed information, upload it to the CMap Genesis social map, and then from there, they will take that, decompress.
That might be down imaging.
Create the whole thing, and then put it on this website. Double-edged sword. Because the only way you can do this, and unless I'm mistaken, but last I looked at it, the only way you can get this level of detail of the map is you have to upload it to the social map, which then becomes public knowledge to anybody else that's curious to look at it. So.
Not the end of the world.
Not the end of the world, depending upon what kind of body of water you want to look at. That,
Unless it's like your secret honey hole, don't be doing this because then everybody's going to know everything about your honey hole.
Right. But so we know, looking at the other maps, that there was a deeper hole here, but it just was lacking on information. But when you go and look at it, like, look at how tight this contour is. Going from up here, this is 18 feet at this line, so 23 feet, right down to 46 feet, and we even have a scale down the bottom right, so I really hope you can still see this.
And like 100, almost 200 feet.
Yeah, well, if you actually rotate the 100-foot scale line
that's what I'm saying.
to be in line with you're right. What'd you say? 125, 100 to 150?
100 to 200 feet.
Yeah, I would say about feet. You're on 150 feet from the tip of that breaking point. Let me move it up to the middle. Sorry. From that 23-foot mark down to 46. So you can tell, obviously, there's a lot more detail to be found here than either any of the other free maps offered. So that's where this fourth and final, like, easy to find level of information coming in handy. Sometimes you get lucky, and literally everything we showed you, C-Maps, Navionics, the New Hampshire, well, any of the state-generated mapping information, iBoating, that they all have, like, incredibly good detailed level of information that all happen to match, and life is groovy. It just makes it easy. Otherwise, sometimes...
I check 3 every time I go out. I do... If I'm fishing New Hampshire, I do the fishing game map. I do Google Maps or Google Earth or one of those, and I do Navionics. And I kind of look at each one of them and then get a good game plan on where I want to go from there, depending on what time of year it is.
Oops. Oh, I could just pin it. Sir Altitude, I did answer your question, though. No, most of this I've learned on my own. What my new company is teaching me is really exactly how transducers work and so much more beyond that. Like, I'm learning how NEMA 2000 networks work, which, for the life of me, I mean, it still kind of is like voodoo magic. It's really weird how it works when you build one out, but at least now it makes sense. And many other things that I can't quite discuss yet. But I am learning a lot here very fast. It makes me excited. Just making sure. Okay. Just looking.
Just looking at it. So fun.
And then South Jersey. We had to pin that because exactly what we just said. You're spot on. You got to screw yourself to get a better view. So keep that in mind and just be careful of what you put on there because it will become public knowledge for what you put up. So, all right, that's one really good example. Let's go ahead and close that. I had... So, you know what? I'm not even going to bring it up. I had another example, but I mean, dude, it's already 9:20. We've covered pretty much everything as far as, like, what comes from, like, the preliminary, right, before you even get on the water. So now let's talk. Because we haven't even covered, like, actually breaking down the water. So now we're talking different times of the year. So now there's that one added level of information you really want to try and gather before you even get on the water that you want to do from your computer. And that's based on time of the year. And that's really where Google Earth comes into play. Like, if you're going out to a body of water for, say, an early tournament in the beginning of May, that's going to be really helpful to know because...
the Google Earth? Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's the vegetation doing?
Right, either what it's doing at a time of the year, if it grows at all, which depending upon how early our spring is, right? Like, how early did ice out hit and how quickly did it get warm from there? Because I can remember not too long ago, we had 2 winters right in a row where we basically didn't have winter, and we literally had fish spawning in the early parts of April in some ponds in southern New Hampshire, which is friggin' mind-blowing to even think about. Granted, they're teeny tiny ponds and they warm up really fast. Shallow bodies of water, like all just, hard sand and rock, they warm up fast, but nonetheless, we've had that happen. Then we got years like this where everything is like a month frickin' behind schedule. Mm-hmm. So it's important to be able to see what there is for vegetation at different times of the year, especially, I have to be careful with what I say because I don't want to give up too information, but we have talked about this before. There's the pond we just fished this weekend where there's all the lily pad beds that are dead, but all the stalks in one particular area just die and fall over and stack up, and the fish stack on them in April, well before anything grows back up. I mean, it's dead. There's nothing there. It's all just all the dead shit left over from the year before. But the moment that water gets into like mid 50s and you get a stiff wind blowing down into that bottom corner for a couple of days straight, how many years in a row have I gone down there with a spinnerbait and absolutely crushed them because they're just chilling inside those lily pad beds? You wouldn't know that if you didn't know that there was lily pads there to begin with. So depending upon the lay of the land, you're going to a shallower body of water that's primarily a largemouth, and you maybe want to know something like that information. That's where Google Earth comes into play, and you want to look at that to time of the year, right? Okay, early in the season, where are the lily pads? Or, damn, it's going to be dead middle of the summer. Maybe I can find some offshore vegetation in a clear lake, if it's not too deep, or at least see where the edge of the grass line is. And if you really go back in years and you get, say, like 10 consecutive years of like satellite imagery updated in the middle of summer, you might be able to see the progression of vegetation growth too.
Right.
That's enough talk about the internet. Let's actually go on and talk about what we do when we're on
South
the damn
Jersey
water.
has a... Nope, next one.
Ooh.
Oh, wait, just kidding.
That's what's so great about reservoirs in the south that fluctuate 20 plus feet. You can learn a lot about the lake just by getting out and riding around during the winter drawdown. Very, very true.
Yeah.
There's quite a few lakes in New Hampshire as well because we're fond of just draining lakes, or at least drawing them way, way down in the winter so that homeowners can either do repairs on docks or retaining walls, or sometimes they do dam work. You know, if it's like a really kind of older, crappier dam on a small body of water, they're like, it's constant upkeep. At least it seems like. So
Jesus.
you can take a walk around these places when they're drawn down and really get a look to see what's around for just even shoreline structure, which is great.
Ice destroys a lot.
Yep. And then, oops, not that one, sorry. So South Jersey. So this is, I'm glad you asked this.
Me too.
What baits do you like to use to break down a body of water or try to figure out the behavior of the fish without live scope? Great question, because that's what we wanted to cover next.
And
was
we don't have live scope.
No, we don't. I don't know why so many people think that we do. I don't. I would love it. I plan on buying it at some point. I don't have it. So as I have is traditional 2D sonar and Mega 360 and barely operating side imaging because my
Barely.
transducer's cracked right down the middle. It's like all jagged. It's bad. But it depends on time of the year. You go first. I already know what you're going to say, and this is new.
Pretty much just gonna throw a jig and maybe a jerkbait, depending on time of year. 9 times out of 10, I'll be throwing a jig at any hard structure.
Let's start around when I'm assuming most people. I'm gonna base a lot of this off of
When most people start fishing in
like tournaments.
Oh, tournaments.
Because I'm thinking that's when most people, like, we need to cover the whole gamut, right? Like, what other time would force you to go fish a new body of water you've never been to? Either you're interested, in which case you're probably going to save it for a better time of the year anyway, or you're doing a new tournament trail and you're forced to go to a lake you haven't been to yet.
Or you're going camping somewhere and you, for some reason, bring a boat. Or you rent a kayak or something.
Right. So let's start like really late spring, early summer, like April into May. So there's no vegetation growth yet. You have the whole lay of the land in front of you. And we'll say water is like 50 plus degrees. Because let's be honest, how many people are going to go look at new bodies of water when the water is like 45 degrees and less, other than psychos like us? But we're specifically trying to get better at that time of the year. It's not necessarily about the new body of water. It's more about the opportunity that water temp presents us.
Those conditions, I'm bringing a jerkbait, jig, probably square bill. A glide, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Even that early in the year, absolutely.
Ned rig.
I think that's good enough.
That's pretty much about what I'm gonna bring.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I do not need to expand on it. As far as colors go, just try and keep it natural.
Chatterbait and swim jig too.
Chatterbait.
Yep.
Glad you brought that up. For some reason, I thought you already said it. For colors, it depends on water clarity, but
Fuck blade baits.
honestly, really early in the year, black and blue tend to do better for me. Like clear water or stained water, black and blue, I will always have tied on until water is at least like low 50s and up. And then at that point, I start bringing out the green pumpkins a little bit more when I'm working, or even watermelon with red and black flake when I'm working in clear water. But otherwise, I throw black and blue quite a bit until water reaches 50. So, all right, so that's your early part of the season. Now let's talk post-spawn. So we're talking still everything's pretty shallow, both smallies and largies, regardless of where you are. And they're not on beds, but they're actively feeding. What are your primary search baits for trying to root out what the lake has to offer?
Jig.
It's always a jig.
Jig, chatterbait, spinnerbait, jerkbait, crankbaits. Pretty much the whole tackle box.
What would be your top three?
Top three would
if you
be-
had to give it to somebody that had like next to nothing for gear and they wanted to quickly identify like what is this lake even holding or what is this spot holding? Is it worth my time to continue to fish this?
Jig. Jig, probably chatterbait, and post spawn,
Yep.
possibly drop shot.
Okay. So you've got, are you going to change that at all for smallmouth? If you're fishing a lake that only has smallmouth.
Only smallmouth, I'll do jig and tube,
Yep.
drop shot, and crankbait.
My man's got almost everything on point for how I would do it. If I'm going to a new body of water and trying to break down water, right? Trying to find fish.
Those are my confidence baits in that at that time of year.
Yeah, that's the important thing that, thank you for bringing that up. Just because we say it, we're not saying these are the best baits. These are the best to us, what we are most confident in that we can quickly break down a body of water. If I'm going middle summer, like post spawn, everything's still up really shallow. If it's largemouth only, always a jig. Honestly, probably a Senko or shaky head for my finesse things, and then either a jackhammer / chatterbait / bladed jig, whatever you want to call it, and or a swim jig on the back of swim bait on the back of a swim jig. Now I've got big bottom presentation, which I have a high degree of confidence in, and it's just a big bait that always gets bit, especially at that time of the year. I've got two very different finesse presentations. You really can't go wrong with either one, but a Senko is going to get bit much more often. The only problem is that it really calls in the rat fish, like rat-sized fish, a lot more often at that time of the year, like right now, Senkos, than like a shaky head, because you can fish that a little bit faster, and it's, I don't know, something different about a shaky head. It produces...
Because it gets down past all the rats.
Yeah. You really can't go wrong. I've had just as many good days as bad days fishing one or the other as far as what is produced for quality. And then either a chatterbait or a swim jig with a swim bait for the trailer, depending upon the thickness of the vegetation that I'm trying to work around up and around the shallows. I might throw a frog in that mix, and I mean, I would certainly recommend it for somebody, but I'm trying to keep this to like as minimalistic as an approach as possible. And then for smallmouth, either drop shot or Ned rig, but more often than not Ned rig right now. Tube, and probably a jerk bait would be my three go-tos for trying to root out fish as fast as I can. And that would be phenomenal. That gets everything covered. Now let's go into, I'm not even going to cover deep summer because that's a totally different animal. Let's go like prime time in the fall.
Jerkbait and jig.
Jerk
Jerkbait
bait.
and big jig.
Specifically for largemouth.
Specifically for largemouth.
What else? Jerkbait, big jig,
Uh,
something finesse.
something finesse.
Nico rig. I'll give you that one.
Sure, I don't ever even throw that, but yeah, okay.
That's what I caught my PB on in the fall.
I know, and I still don't throw it.
You should. That's why I learned from my buddy DJ how good a Nico rig
know they are.
is
It's just-
in the fall. For some reason, I don't understand it, but my God, does it work? Smallmouth.
I try to find different ways to catch them other than Senko.
Yeah, no, trust me, I hear that. 13 minutes of throwing literally everything on my boat I had tied on.
10 seconds.
And then first fucking cast with that stupid Nico rig Senko, I catch my PB.
I know. I still remember that day. I still remember that day because I was on lunch. We were heading back to the job site, and I got a text from you. I was like, yes! 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 Finally!
So for smallmouth, and we'll say in the fall. Now this is where it gets tricky for smallmouth because they could still be suspended even into like primetime largemouth fall fishing.
Boy.
They still could be really deep for smallmouth.
No, this is...
Top three for just finding
I have
fish.
4.
Go for it.
5. Nah, drop shot won't really... I don't really throw drop shot in the fall anymore. Jig. It always starts with jig. I don't know why. I just love them.
It's because we're really good with it.
Yeah. Okay, no.
Ice out to ice in, man, and we catch them on jigs.
Smallies in the fall, jig, jerk bait, underspin, or spy bait.
Yep.
And
Waiting for him to say it.
what am I trying to say?
Demiki rig.
Yes.
Damn right.
Yes.
So
Demiki rig.
Demiki rig really is mostly dependent upon having at least some form of electronics. I mean, literally, my Garmin Striker 4 that I use for ice fishing, which cost me $200, you could throw that transducer over the side of the boat if that's all you have. Excuse me, man, that beer is making me burp a storm. I apologize.
I have literally done this, by the way.
Yeah, it's worked. You can just throw that. Like, you could literally take your ice fishing friggin' flasher with you and throw it over the side of the boat, and that's all you need for electronics to be able to adequately and confidently fish something like a Demiki rig. If you're actively trying to mark fish below you, especially the ones that are suspending, it'd pick those off. So keep that in mind. So that, I think, thoroughly answers South Jersey Fisherman's question for all the baits that we would use for breaking down water. There's a whole myriad of other baits we could use and recommend, by the way, and we run the whole gamut of everything. But from keeping it from a very simplistic approach of like what are our highest level of confidence baits that we could throw, new body water, I just want to put something in the boat right now to see what's here. And then I'll work on size and location after that. Like, that's what really fed all of those recommendations that we made, and they worked killer for us for many, many years when we go to first body water.
Yeah. I mean, we're not just picking, like, I say jig. I'm not just picking one jig.
No.
I'm not just taking one jig, putting a trailer on it, and using that until I catch a fish, or I get sick of throwing it because I'm not catching. Taking a jig, one that matches the hatch of the forage in that lake. I'm usually starting a little bigger. I'll move smaller depending on what we're going for. Smallies, I will start with somewhat of like a medium to smaller size jig. But as we fish throughout the day, he's catching fish, I'm catching fish. We're changing colors, we're changing sizes, we're trimming stuff, we're doing all sorts of crazy shit to these jigs, like until we finally get it dialed that we're getting bit on jigs and it's going to be a jig bite. If it's not, if we're doing jerkbaits, the same thing. Are they biting in 6 feet of water? Are they biting in 16 feet of water? Like, we're changing our baits constantly to match what they want to bite. We're not just picking up one jig and working that one jig all day.
Spot on. And that was perfect because that perfectly segues into that next level of breaking down water that you and I think, excel at compared to most people, in that we don't need to take notes because of the level of discussion that we have, and your recall on the water, like during the day of, is phenomenal. And I know,
What do you mean?
as far as like, we catch them a certain way, like as we're catching them, we're making mental notes of what we did to catch them, what they were on when we caught them, like color we're using, like kind of what we were doing for the retrieve most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. What are you
We're
doing?
just soaking
I
it.
don't fucking know.
But then the way we talk it through it, and then for some reason, like I can't remember shit for it, like anything in my life, but I can remember almost everything I've ever done in a boat on any given day. So I can continuously recall that information as the day goes on and put that pattern together.
I go to him like, what did I do that day and how fast was I moving that?
And I can
What jig
usually
was I
remember-
using? What color?
I don't understand how I do it, but I do. I think it's because it's my passion, so it makes it easier. But that's the next thing I want to talk about is when breaking down new water, that level of detail, of attention to detail that you have to have while you're catching fish out there in a new body of water for the first time, and then trying to verify what it is that you caught them on. But before I do that, I do want to address a few questions in the chat. And also,
sextuplet C thick.
one other reminder for anybody that hasn't done it yet, please drop a like on the stream. We appreciate everybody that's been here watching this so far. We greatly appreciate you guys listening to our ranting and rambling as the show goes on here. We're already an hour and a half into it. And keep the comments coming. I can't address every single one actively as we're going through it, but we are doing our best while trying to keep the flow of the information coming through in a relatively structured manner. But Alec, what if the place has so much milfoil, it's like the Amazon rainforest underwater? And I'm talking that thick milfoil.
Punch that. Punch it. Punch that stuff. Punch that shit.
I'm trying to think of what I've done in years past where we've come across that. And I mean, it's in recent years where I feel like I mostly know what I'm doing.
Like the stuff, are you talking about the stuff that comes up and it's like covering the whole top? Because if that's the stuff you're talking about, there's still individual strands coming up, and there is space for those fish to move underneath. So punching that stuff can work really well with like a heavy Texas rig.
Right. But you have to be careful with that because sometimes you go too heavy and they don't want it. So that's where my brain was going to think about this because that was the first thing I thought. And I'm like, eh. But there's some days where they don't want that. That's probably one of the most challenging places to break down new body of water because, like, finding the juice in that is like, I'm trying to think. I don't want to say the place out loud. Where we went with Jared earlier this year, and I stuck that 6, my only 6 of the year, and then you stuck the 5 3/4 first.
Yeah.
And I stuck the 6 1/4, and it's got all that vegetation on the bottom that we love to fish now. There's a couple of really particularly good spots in the middle of this giant milfoil patch that are better than others. Because it's got hard packed bottom at the bottom. So you can't see it because everything is so dense, but because I've been fishing this lake almost my entire life now, shit.
We know where they are. We know where those patches
As of
are.
next year, I'll be fishing that lake for 30 years. How's that for a scary thought?
Yeah, I've been going there since I was...
Holy crap. It's the first place my dad ever took me to when I was 8 years old in 1993 at the end of the year. Jesus Christ, I'm getting old.
Wow.
Starting to feel like Danny Glover. I'm getting too old for this shit. Anyway, so because of my history there, I know that there are a couple of spots in the middle of the wall where it's like hard packed sandy bottom, and everything I've ever read and everything from previous experience, like that's the best places to fish in the middle of really thick vegetation like that. If you don't have that information, it makes things a little bit more difficult. So you have to just kind of fan out and be very, very broad in your approach. As Andrew said, punching it or like Texas rigs in general, jigs like the Beast Coast Little Magnum that excels, like it's specifically for kind of like a punching rig per
I
se.
actually had a football jig on that day.
Did you really?
Yep. And I was
Psycho.
bulldozing that stuff with that thing.
It was working.
And it was working really well.
But I wouldn't recommend that to like not necessarily a newbie angler, but somebody that's like first trying to break down a body of water because that's like a specialty approach to like doing something different.
Yeah.
So variety of Texas rigs, and I wouldn't be going there unless I was like middle of the summer, right, where I know it's going to be good fishing. So variety of Texas rigs as far as overall profile and action, and then weights that you're throwing on it. Sometimes they want it to rocket past their face. Some days they want something really light, so it just flutters past. I would fish either a Texas weightless T-rigged Senko or Fluke, or you could throw it on a really light bullet weight as well. Tokyo rig maybe, but now you're kind of getting to like specialty techniques for that. You could work like Kitex, like you could throw a 5 to 6 inch Kitech just on a belly weighted hook and rig it Texposed, but like a heavy Texposed. So as you're bumping through and ripping through all the weeds, it doesn't expose the hook point on you and get fouled up more easily. For breaking down new water, like those are all my go-tos because I've got my finesse in my weightless Texas regular Senko or Fluke. I've got my moving bait and just a big swim bait that I can slow roll through things, and then I've got my Texas rig and a variety of weights that I can pick shit apart and get down to the bottom.
Throwing a frog over that stuff is good too.
And then the frog. I keep overlooking the frog because I don't know, it's not something I want to recommend for like first breaking down a body of water, but it should be. It absolutely should be.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, that's a tough one though. Yeah, flip it.
Yeah. So, best way to figure out those lakes out is to spend time ice out and look for hard spots or clean spots.
Vegetation on top of about
Yes.
6 feet of water.
Yes. That is the only way you're going to be able to find all that hard pack in the middle of all the vegetation fields. But you wouldn't even know you had to look for that if you roll up to a lake for the first time. You didn't do your due diligence that we talked about earlier before you got there, and you were like, surprise! Milfoil fest.
6 foot. Oh, man.
What are you looking at?
Alex, next comment.
Milfoil and fanwort. Not much of a mat. It's just vegetation, top to bottom, about 6 feet of water for miles. So everything we still said applies. Mm-hmm. And you could probably get away with a swim jig with a swim bait on the back for the trailer.
Yep.
Because if it's not that thick like milfoil, you can slide through a lot more of that stuff with more things. Well, there you go. Chad. Deep dive. So, all right. I will get to Chad's comment in a minute because it does go back to the tech side of things, but I want to finish more on the water stuff. So, all right, we talked about everything you do prior to leaving. That's everything on the internet for looking for maps and using Google Earth, verifying satellite imagery, understanding what time of the year you want to be and what you want to look at. We've talked about all the top baits we'd recommend using for searching out for fish in new body of water for both smallmouth and largemouth in various times of the year. So the thing that's right, we're going to segue to that you had started was how to continue to break down new water. You've got all your information. You've got your lake you've chosen. You understand what's going to be there for vegetation or not because of the time of the year you've chosen. You know there's either largemouth and smallmouth or one or the other. You know roughly what depths you want to look at because you've already researched this time of the year, right? Which if you aren't, you should be. Like, okay, I am dog shit at fishing for smallmouth in the middle of summer when they're suspended. I'm going to read as many articles or watch as many videos as I can, whichever your preference, on that very specific topic to give me and find the overlaps. Because you can find a million videos and a million articles on any specific technique for any time of the year. And it can be overwhelming. But if you find one good resource that you enjoy, or a handful, and you watch or read 5 to 10 things, you will find points of emphasis that overlap from every single one of those resources. And that's your starting information to go from. You've got all that. Now you're on the water. Now you're catching fish. What's next for breaking down body of water? And this is what you and I excel at when we fish together, is that sharing and storing of information that you gather with every fish that you catch.
Or every cast.
You need to understand how they're feeding, what they're feeding on, and what you were doing when they did it, everything. Are they feeding up? Are they feeding down? I'm using a whole lot of lists on my fingers here. For smallmouth, I've said this for years. It's like the first thing, we got to figure out if they're feeding up or feeding down. Topwater or jerkbait or drop shot and tube, right? Do I have to work really slow to get something, or am I working really fast and aggressive? Was I fishing something huge, or was I fishing something super subtle? Literally anything and everything comes into play. Was that rock I cast at completely alone and barren of vegetation, or did it have a thick patch of grass right beside it? And vice versa. Was that grass completely just 100% grass, or was there a rock in the middle of it that I wasn't aware of?
Or was it just a patch of grass that was out in the middle of nowhere by itself?
Right. Every single fish that you catch is information you need to capture. So I don't know, for me, I find that incredibly enjoyable. Because that's what I want to do. I want to figure out all of these nuances of breaking down fish in different bodies of water, understanding what makes them tick and to be successful in any conditions that we find ourselves in. So I am constantly aware of everything I'm doing 95% of the time. I'm not perfect, and I never will be. It's hard to maintain that level of focus nonstop when you're fishing. But if I have a high degree of confidence that we roll up in a rock pile, and I think that they're going to be at the bottom of that 10-foot deep rock pile. Starts at maybe 2 feet, bottoms out at 10. I think they're going to be at the bottom. I'm going to start my football jig. That's my highest degree of confidence. And I'm going to throw it almost parallel because I think they're going to be at the bottom. And I'm going to work it to what I think is the most sensible cadence for that time of the year. Right now, post-spawn. Mm-hmm. How are you going to fish that jig at the bottom of that for how fast you're retrieving it and what you're doing to retrieve it?
I'm going to do a steady drag, pause. Pop, steady drag, pause, and then probably repeat that, or maybe I might change up the cadence a little bit. I'll do a drag, but I'm not going dead slow. I'm lifting that bait, I'm moving that thing. I'm getting it to actually either come off the bottom. When I'm popping it, I'm getting that thing up off the bottom 6-8 inches to a foot. At sometimes.
Yeah, but no, I would say that's your average.
Right.
That's good average. And
it's not bad.
No,
right, babe?
Anyway, so repeating that 10, 15 times, right? And if you get bit, great. You already did that 10, 15 times. You knew exactly what you did to get that fish to bite. Dude, if you can remember it, props to you. If you can't remember shit, my God, I don't care what you use. Your phone, you bring a freaking whiteboard, you bring a notepad, you tell your friend who's got the memory of, I can't make a comparison right now, but someone that's got really good, yeah, me, whatever. Then file it away. This is exactly what I did when I caught that fish. And it was on this structure, and I'm using stealth craw jig from Beast Coast with just a green pumpkin trailer with black flake. Okay, noted, right? I know of another spot because we looked at a map that's got a steep contour over there that looks similar to this rock pile. And we haven't got bit at doing anything else yet. So you can either one of two things. Completely change up how you're fishing that rock pile. Or if that's really how you want to catch them, just go to that next point that you've already identified that should have it. If you're lucky, boom, another rock pile. It's almost identical. Repeat what you did. If it works, okay, you have 2 points of reference with consistency between what you did. You're starting to put a pattern together. And that's how you're going to continue to break down water. But if you've now done it for a second time, I would work the hell out of that point. And the moment you're confident that, like, okay, well, I've fished that jig a number of different ways, and I've thrown a shaky head, and I've cranked it with a crankbait, and I've run a swim bait and a spinner bait over it, whatever, however you want to approach it. Take your boat, and either, if it's not too deep, if you have a graph with just regular 2D sonar and you understand what it is that you're seeing with it, perfect. If you are fortunate, it's a nice weather day, and you've got a decent pair of polarized sunglasses on, water clarity's good, drive right over those rocks. Tell me what's down there. Is it just a series of big boulders that are all the same size, or is it a couple of big boulders with a bunch of riprap and sand in between everything? Or is there vegetation in key points? If you only see one patch of vegetation in the middle of that, do you remember where you caught the fish? If that vegetation is in the middle, and you know you cast to the far side and you caught that fish immediately, it probably wasn't around the vegetation. Then again, he could have been in the veggies and he saw your jig fall and he went over for it from there. But if you landed 30 feet away in slightly murky water away from that grass, then that grass probably isn't going to play. Versus you may have landed right on the grass, then was he on the rock or was he on the grass? It's all about putting together literally every single little bit of information that you can gather from every fish catch and trying to build a pattern from that. And that's that next level step of breaking down new water. Because now you can understand, like, what they like to feed on. You already know from all your information earlier that, okay, the only thing that they mentioned for bait fishing here is sunfish. So you can probably guarantee that there's probably either yellow perch or crappie in there.
Probably, yeah.
Because they're not always listed. You know there's crayfish. Those bastards are everywhere in the friggin' New England.
Probably in New England, yeah. There's probably some sort of catfish in there or something. Some sort of bottom feeder.
Yep. So it's likely that you're going to be able to catch something on a bottom presentation for them versus you've got bluegill and red ear and pumpkin seed and yellow perch and black crappie and white crappie and
white perch.
Like, is there white crappie? I meant white perch when I said that.
Golden shiners and like just there's so many bait fish in every pond.
Right. And if all of those are listed, okay, maybe I'm not going to start with a jig. Maybe I'm not going to necessarily start with a bottom. It really depends on the time of the year, but there's a whole lot of information building you need to do before you even get on the water to then pick the best approach that you feel is necessary for that time of the year. But then start putting together, man, all of that information you got from every fish catch. Mm-hmm. And that's that next level of breaking down new water. I feel like there's like another key aspect of breaking down new water that we really haven't covered. But we got like the whole electronic side of it done as far as, we haven't even covered electronics on the boat.
Oh boy.
Everything we've covered thus far has been completely independent of having electronics, which is pretty good because we've been at this for an hour and 40 minutes.
Aren't we having someone with electronic?
As a matter of fact, next week we do have somebody coming on to specifically talk about forward-facing sonar as a whole. Tim Maynard, I got that CMS. Can't remember shit.
You know what I do when I'm sitting there fishing a jig? I literally think that I'm the jig. It sounds ridiculous, but I'm moving that jig, and I'm not even looking at my rod 90% of the time unless I'm like, if you watch any of the videos, you'll see me just like kind of like looking off into freaking space like as I'm fishing. That's just because I'm so focused on what I feel that jig is doing. Is it going through grass? Is it knocking off like a couple little boulders? Is it just raking across sand? Like, what is it doing? Like, that's literally what I'm doing. I'm sitting there and I'm focusing so hard on what that jig is doing that I have no idea really what the hell's going on outside. You farting? What's going on outside of my own little world? Like,
just standing up.
he'll say something and I'll just be like, huh? Like in the middle of nowhere, or I'll just like so happen to look over and he'll be on a fish. I didn't even hear him say, "Yup, I'm on." I'll just like see fast, like see fast movement and like kind of look over and be like, oh shit, he's on. I'll grab the net. Like I'm so keyed in on trying to feel what I'm going through, whether it's like I said, sand, rock, gravel, grass, mud, whatever it is, and then feeling any little differences. Like if I'm dragging through sand and I feel one little rock, I'll literally just pick my rod up just enough where I can just kind of like work that jig just over that little rock. And if I get bit, I got bit. Now I know somewhat that they're either down in the rocks or they're in that general area.
Yep. Very well said. And expanding on that, it makes it a lot easier when you fish tungsten, which I know not a lot of people can afford because that shit is not cheap. But fishing tungsten jigs or just jig heads in general, whether it's a Ned rig, ball head jig, drop shot weight, whatever, it does give you much better feedback that I can tll the difference between if I'm going through firm sand to a mucky bottom to rock to grass. Like you can feel that. You don't always need the highest end rod to be able to feel a ton of that.
No. You get a good line, some good fluorocarbon, and some tungsten, you will feel it. Because it's going to transfer, instead of through the rod, it's going to transfer from that bait to your hand in your reel.
Bingo.
You'll still feel it.
Dude, yeah, you said that. Everything about the jig, perfect. You literally are like the jig while you're doing it. But that's how you're best able to break down that information down the bottom to where you're catching these fish. Mm-hmm. Real quick, Chad, thank you very much for the donation, buddy. Greatly appreciate it. As always, appreciate you, friend.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Oh, he's in New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah, he's on vacation all week. I wish I could get up there.
Yeah.
We got a tournament this weekend, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
And my kid's birthday's Saturday. Well, it's not his birthday Saturday. It's his birthday party.
I've told like 4 people I got a tournament. This is the first tournament of the weekend, the year this weekend, and I just completely forget that we have a tournament this weekend.
Yeah.
God damn it.
All right, so like everything we've covered, and a quick recap. Step 1, start online. Literally just search the lake you're looking for and start rifling through all the results you get to figure out what information you can gather ahead of time. More often than not, you may end up either finding, if you really care enough to go through Facebook, you'll find probably on some public groups like random posts with some basic information, but at least you'll be able to find depth charts. You might find some blog posts, or if you're lucky, like an actual like well-written article about a specific body of water. It's kind of becoming harder to come by nowadays, but everything starts with what you can cover electronically on your computer or phone. Step 2, decide what your strengths are for baits. Find out everything you can, especially if you're trying to learn one of these techniques, about those techniques for that time of the year through reading a couple of articles or watching the videos. So now you've honed in on what the lake has to offer. You know what time of the year you want to fish. You know what baits are most likely to help you succeed at that time of the water, just to put fish in the boat. Like, you shouldn't really be too concerned with size right away unless you're out there scouting for a tournament, in which case you probably already know quite a bit about what you're doing anyway. But, you know, now you have laid the land and your approach for what you're going to do that you also have the most confidence in going into it. And then constant feedback to yourself about what you're doing is step 3, to understand exactly how you caught that fish, what you were doing and where, so you can build that pattern and continue to break down that body of water. And then, because of all the information you did in step 1, you know other places you can go find. Dude, we cracked them on that shallow sandy flat over there. It's a good thing we looked at the map ahead of time, because I know there's 2 more shallow sandy flats over here.
Perfect, let's go.
Or even worse, shit, that's the only sandy flat we have here. What do we do now? But it'll make you think and pivot. So last but not least is electronics. And we saved this for last intentionally. Probably didn't seem like it, but I promise you it was intentional, because it's something that not everybody has, or if they do have it, the degree of what they have is just through the roof varied. So going to Jason's comment, side scan to find the area, 360 to dial it in, live scope to catch everything on the spot, priceless or 10K. Could not have said it better myself. When it comes to electronics, we use...
Still need to know how to catch fish, though.
That you do. And that's honestly the biggest reason why I have a guest on next week. I still got to find somebody for shallow water largemouth. I'll be able to figure that out. But that's the reason why I want to have somebody on next week. I'm so tired of seeing comments like, oh, they got thrive scopes, so they just can't finish. It's...
You see, the only difference is that you see the fish.
Right.
And that is there. It's like sight fishing, but how many times have you seen a fish and you toss that and the thing fucks right off?
Right.
Same shit happens.
I was case in point for that for another great comparison to it. I was talking to my father-in-law this weekend. I forget what the hell I just bought. I bought something, and he was like so excited because he's a pretty frugal dude, but he bought a rangefinder for when he's out golfing. Guy's been an avid golfer his entire life, and he's always just relied on apps on his phone. But those are only so accurate because it gives you 3 locations for the pin, either front, center, or rear. But it's not always there, and depending on the size of the green, you could have like 100-foot long green. And if it's halfway between the front and the rear, like it's you're talking like a 25-foot swing, and that's a whole different club for some people. So he was all excited, right? He was telling me about it, and he was like, "Sean, it's cheating. This is just like cheating. I pulled that thing up, and I can tell you within inches of how far away I am from the pin, from where I'm standing at the ball."
Still gotta hit it though.
That's exactly what I said. I was like, "It's not cheating." He goes, "How is it not cheating?" I was like, I'm dog shit at golf. I love it. I'm dog shit. I've never hit under 100 in my life. Granted, I've golfed less than 25 times total in my entire life. And I was like, you tell me if I get a rangefinder, I can shoot 80? That I'll be able to hit that pin every time? That I won't fucking shank it out into the woods once every 3 holes?
You just hit that guy.
He's like, shouldn't have been standing there. He was like, fair point. Just because you have a live scope, you can see the fish doesn't mean you know what you're doing.
Now you can see what you're not going to catch.
Exactly. Get Randy on. Oh, God. So going through electronics, there's a whole host of what you can use or whatever. Let's start with the basics. If you just have like the most basic shit, whether it's a flasher used for ice fishing or just like any graph that has just traditional 2D sonar.
Like my boat.
Yeah. And
I don't even use 2D sonar. I don't use any sonar.
What do you have
half
on
the
it?
time? Oh, I have like... What do I have on that?
You have sonar.
I have like an old-ass Lowrance, like 5-inch graph.
Yeah, but that's your traditional 2D sonar. That's like all the colors and...
That I bring like 1 out of 7 times I go out.
True. Yeah, but when you bring your boat, usually fishing bodies water, like back of your hand anyway.
Sometimes. Most of the time. If I'm going to a new place, I will bring that little 2D sonar just so I can get depth and water temp, really.
Yeah. And that's a big part of it, too.
It is.
Having electronics, dude, you could literally bring a pool floaty, water temperature thing. If really all you need is water temperature, just buy a $20 one of those and let it soak for half an hour, and you'll know what your surface temperature is. Mm-hmm. But at the very least, if you have traditional 2D sonar or flasher, if you just take your ice fishing kit along with you, that's enough that you can at least read the contour of where it is you are rolling over. And I got by with that until 2018. I've only had... Yeah, summer... Oh, I gotta think about this. Was that right? Yeah, summer of 2018. So only until 4 years ago, I literally had nothing but traditional 2D sonar. I didn't even have 2 graphs that could talk to each other and share waypoints until 2018. So think about that. Every time. Up until the summer of 2018, if we were out fishing, it wasn't until 2016 or 2017 I got my second graph. I had a Lowrance Elite 7, like the original Elite series. Now it's the Hook, I think.
Don't you sell the boxer?
No, I got rid of everything. Oh. And then I don't even know, LCM X75 or something. Basically a 4.5-inch non-color screen on the front of my boat. Maybe it was color. That literally just gave me, yep.
I remember that.
That teeny tiny one. That all it gave me was depth and water temp. And then the other one gave me depth and water temp and had waypoints. And so when I was driving, like especially on bigger lakes like Winnipesaukee or Squam, I could navigate safely finally for the first time in my life because I actually had a chart. But then I could also save waypoints for like rock piles and stuff I found. And anytime we were fishing a spot where we were trying to fish a rock pile, because I had that graph on a ram mount, we'd pull up to a spot and flip it around backwards and turn it on. My buddy Rafter at the time was looking like, I can't see shit, but I don't know where the rock pile is, and I'm navigating. So I'd be fishing, looking back, looking at it backwards. I'm like,
Spin the boat
man, it's over here.
Spin the boat around.
You don't need much, honestly. Like if you can get something that can read bottom and give you water temp, I got by with that and was very successful with it for most of my life. Again, up until essentially 5 years ago. Until I was 32. That's all I relied on. That and a good pair of polarized sunglasses. You found areas from everything in step 1, right? You know what you're looking for different times of the year for depths or contours or maybe particularly different structures. If you at least have a transducer of some kind that can read bottom and you have a decent understanding of what you're reading between hard bottom versus soft bottom, and that's that definition in the return, and a lot of it's going to depend upon your settings, but at least like a really, 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 really hard return on the curve, it's probably rock. And if it looks like a bunch of hair strands, it's probably grass. And if it looks kind of like noisy across it, it's probably soft bottom.
Yep.
That's it. But you know, okay, I've identified a steep point. I hope it's rocky. Idle up to it, get a control motor, and zip up and down. And look and see what you get. You're going to get a more detailed return the slower you get, but you can't go too slow. It's just all going to present as one big blob, right? So usually on a trolling motor, going at like 40 to 50% speed, you get really good return on detail to what you're looking at. And you can tell, okay, that's just a bank, it's got dog shit. Or, oh, wow, there's tons of big boulders here with some riprap. Or it's just riprap with mixed with sand. That's all you need, bare minimum. That gets you everything you need to know about what a lake has to offer. It just is going to take you a very long time to break it down a big-ass body of water.
Yeah, it's not the second you get on there and be like, oh, here are the fish, let's catch them.
Right.
You
Daniel.
still got to drive around and figure the lake out. It's going to could take a month, could take a year, could take 10 years.
I've got a great specific example to that, to break that down. Daniel, thank you very much, buddy. Greatly appreciate it. You have a wonderful night. And yeah, Jason, you're absolutely right. You can find hard bottom with 2D also. So, to your point about how long it can take, I have one lake in particular, the same one I was talking about earlier. Next year will be my 30th year fishing this lake, which is a scary thing to think about. But there's one particular stretch of bank that, like, damn, I want to say like
3 years ago?
No. Like 10 or 12 years ago, when I was really starting to learn and like understand the importance of fishing different structure. Beautiful bluebird sky day. I got my first pair of polarized sunglasses. This is only, again, 12 years ago before I realized like what polarized sunglasses meant. Maybe that was 15 years ago, but way too late in my life, right? And I saw just this big boulder. It was during a drought, and I remember why. And we had two really big bad droughts out there. And the first one, I was like, holy shit, there's a big boulder out here. I've always wondered why I caught big fish out here, or just fish in general, not always big, but okay, wow, there's a giant boulder here. Like, it's kind of a steep bank, and then there's a little gap, there's a big boulder. I'm like, hell yeah, this is the spot we caught with Jared.
Yep.
And I went out another time, and I saw another boulder. Nice, clear, bluebird skies, no wind. Fuck yeah, another big boulder. Cool. Now I really understand the appeal of this stretch. And then I went back during another drought, right? And now I have 2D sonar. And I'm like spotting boulders. I'm going to the top of the market. I'm like, dude, there's like 20 or 30 boulders along this stretch. This is crazy. And I think it took me 5 years before, between actually 3 different droughts where the water got really, really low in that place, and just being there in perfect conditions, or just getting lucky and happening to idle over or trolling motor over certain rocks. I had like 100 rocks marked over an 800-foot stretch of water. But now I could tell it wasn't just a couple of big boulders. It was bigger boulders mixed with some kind of like, there was a rocky point, there's some like little rock veins, and then there was like a little rock pile, and like a couple of scattered like smaller rocks, like maybe this big, that were like in a little like semicircle. And I had all that dialed. Q 2018, I get my Skeeter, and I get all new electronics. I bring everything to Bass Fishing Electronics. He had my boat for like 2 weeks, I think, and he was like, dude, I'm really sorry. I cannot get your waypoints off your old Lowrance onto your new one, because it's just, I forget what it was, but there was essentially a critical error within my old graph because I didn't update it ever. And it was too far gone, and whatever I had done at some point ruined it. And so like all the information was there, it just couldn't be transferred. He's like, I'll rig it temporarily so you can just like look at that, and as you're fishing for the next year or two, just, remark all your spots. I'm like, I'll figure it all out again. I gave my dad my graph. And he still has it. I think it had like 3,000 waypoints on it. Go back to that same stretch. Now we're talking side imaging. We've already talked 2D sonar and how quickly and or how slowly it can be. Now we're going to talk the speed of side imaging for breaking down new water.
One pass.
what took me 6 fucking years to completely understand what I thought was everything that stretch of bank had to have, I covered in 7 minutes. 7 minutes, I knew everything I already had and then some. I found rocks I had no idea existed. I found vegetation I had no idea was out there. I found so much shit in 7 minutes in one goddamn pass because I was able to cover 300 feet of water at 5 miles an hour in one pass. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't sell you in side imaging, I don't know what to tell you. I literally replicated 6 years of effort, whatever the hell it was I said, 5 or 6, 7 years of effort into a 7-minute pass with my boat because of side imaging. That is unreal. Mm-hmm. Side imaging, bar none, is the single best tool you could possibly invest in for breaking down new water. And I'm not even talking like Humminbird Mega Live or Mega Side Imaging, right? Which I've
Lowrance regular, just side imaging.
400 kilohertz.
Yeah,
which is still a pretty good return, and you get good, really, really good detail. And again, you can cover 150 feet per side, 300 feet of lake at total. Now, the further you go in the width, the less detail you get. So you really do want to kind of narrow it up. If you go like 70 to 80 feet, that's kind of a sweet spot for being able to break down a lot of water quickly, but still getting a good return on detail as to what you're seeing. So that is your 50,000 foot overview of breaking down new body of water, is what side imaging gets you. Beyond that, if you can get it, 360 imaging. Mega is obviously better, but regular 360, I went fishing with one of my buddies for a full day and got to use it, and I was blown away. That's like your 500-foot overview, because you can see literally everything in a spot, and it's, to me, more valuable than side imaging for getting better, more granular detail. Because we saw that in that lake in Vermont where we side imaged it. We're like, oh yeah, dude, there's like a rock vein here, a little rock pile here, and then sand. But then we pull up over the top of it with 360, and you literally get that top-down periscope view of everything in insane detail.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and now you can see it's
insane.
Not just a rock pile. There happens to be a little pocket in the middle of that rock pile, or in that rock pile, there's one big boulder that's not
it's
quite
like
in the
if
middle,
somebody
but off the
emptied
side.
all the water out from underneath your boat and you're just looking down on top of it.
That's exactly it.
Like, it's insane.
So, but it's at its best when you're standing still. You can move, like you can crank up the speed on it and the range quite a bit, and you can kind of move around, and it helps you pinpoint stuff. But then the other benefit to that is you can make, like, I literally put my rod down on the screen. I'm like, yep, it's that way, and I'm counting the rings 35 feet. And we've talked about that many a time in the stream, how many fish we owe to being able to do exactly that.
How many big fish?
Especially big fish.
Big fish.
So side imaging gets your 50,000 foot overview, and you can break down a ton of water fast. 360 imaging, regular or mega, gives you that 500 foot overview where you can really, I mean, honestly, it's like your 500 to 50 foot overview. If you're really, really, really fortunate enough that you can get into something with forward-facing sonar and active, that is your pinpoint granular view, where you can literally hone in on a rock and watch it in live view to see
hone in on a fish and see if it's going to eat what you're throwing at it.
You can even see if it's there, and that's the beauty of it. Like, if you already know water like the back of your hand, or you think, or you're at water for the first time, and you're like, you know what? This literally has everything we could possibly imagine that should hold fish this time of the year. You can pull up and just sweep it. There's literally not a single fucking fish here, bud. Let's go. And in 30 seconds, you know whether or not to waste your time on that spot, which is insane. And then 2D sonar also still gets you like that periscope, like 10-foot overview, but you're limited to just that 10 feet. Whereas,
and if you're fishing a bank, if you're going along a bank, fishing that bank, that sonar's coming down, and it's stopping right there. That cone.
It'll still read. Well, it depends on your depth.
Yeah.
And what mode you're in, because the frequency you're in also dictates the angle of your cone.
Right.
So,
but it reads underneath the ground that's already been displayed on the monitor. So it looks like it's down.
Yeah, that's true.
It looks like it's in the ground, like on the bottom of the lake.
I know what you mean. You're right. Sorry, it's not going to show the bank like this. It's still going to show one line, but it might show the line like dropping
Kinda
steadily.
dropping down, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, oh boy. Where are we at here? So, but before I return back to the comments, it's already getting late. Holy
Aliens.
crap. Chad said, well said. Fact. That was 13 minutes ago. I forget what you had said.
Who said that?
Chad.
Who said what?
Great,
Probably
great
you
point,
said
Andrew.
something. Oh, me? Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, Chad.
So, honestly, that's all I think we need to be said about electronics. A lot of that is pretty self-explanatory, and especially on the stream. We've covered it in great depth before in another stream. We're going to cover it in insane amounts of depth, although specifically for active sonar or forward-facing sonar, whatever the hell you want to call it, next week. But that's the kind of overview as to what you can use your electronics for breaking down new water. And I think that covers everything. There was a comment up there that I saw from, no, you're good, that I want to address from Joyous Fox. What do you guys think about the pocket-sized depth fish finders that work with your phone and Bluetooth?
So I've used one, ice fishing. We had, so when me and Grub were on Lunkerville, Mike D brought out one of the, what the hell's the name of that?
Was it the iBobber or something like that?
No, it was,
I remember that. You guys did a special just for them.
I don't remember what the hell the name of the... It's like one of those little iBob or whatever they are. The Deeper. That's what it's called, Deeper. It's literally a sphere that's a transducer that you can either throw in your hole in ice fishing, or you just literally throw it in the water wherever you're going to go cast, and you look at your phone and be like, okay, there's fish there. It's just a portable 2D sonar, really. And I think you can actually set it up as a flasher, too.
Oh, I
believe you can. They work great. I've used them for ice. I've only used them for ice fishing, but it worked phenomenal. Ice fishing. It was honestly like extremely clear. You could see what the hell was going on. It wasn't just like all over the place and super blurry and cheap, and it actually worked pretty well. So, if that's all you got to work with, learn to use it, and they work really well. Fish Hunter?
Sorry, I was trying to respond to that before you.
How many of those things there are? There's probably like 30 of them. But
yeah, probably. Deeper?
Deeper. Yeah, it was Deeper.
That's what it was. Oh boy. I'm sorry. I'm like trying to rearrange browsers here for. Why can I not there we go. It's like, that's weird. Heard the Garmin one was the only good one. But yeah, thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. Jim, you're welcome. Fish Hunter, I haven't heard of that one. Joyous Fox, you're very welcome. Cool, thanks. Seems good for the kayak.
Yeah, oh yeah, for your kayak, absolutely, you should be fine.
Yeah.
You could honestly probably just somehow hard mount it to the front of your kayak.
Probably.
And then just have your phone in your lap or whatever, or on like a little phone holder on the side of your kayak.
Yeah. So, Tim... Oh, yeah, John, I saw your comment. Sorry, I didn't get to it yet. We're on the St. Lawrence, but I do want to talk to you about that. But Tim's comment here, I have to be completely honest. I can't necessarily side with Randy here, but lately I'm having mixed feelings on the forward sonar. Just keeping it real.
Randy?
Dude, I literally watched 15 seconds, and I'm being generous here on my guesstimation of how long I gave it to him. He's just... I'm not gonna comment on what I think about him, because I am not going to judge somebody off of what I saw from 15 seconds. However, I will say that my first impression of him, he came off very trolly. And I know nothing else about the guy. I'm pretty sure it's Randy Blockett. I don't remember. Like, it goes to show again how much attention I pay to it. I rarely have time to watch people that I enjoy, that are very constructive and positive influences on the community. I am never going to give my time to people like what I saw in that 15 seconds from it. It was posted on Bass Boat Central. I was like, I'm intrigued, and I clicked it, and I was like, I immediately regret this decision. Close. Because I don't have time to waste on bullshit like that.
I have no idea who he is, and I don't really care.
No, but, like, don't do it. I don't know. From what I read through the comments on that post, was he was just basically bashing on people using forward-facing sonar.
Okay, well, if they took the time out of their life to figure out how to use it and how to catch those fish, then they are doing something right. Yeah,
I mean...
They're just utilizing another tool that's on the boat.
I've fished with it fairly extensively now over the course of a couple of days.
I don't really think I need it. I don't know.
Do we need it? Absolutely not.
Honestly, I like the surprise.
We've done phenomenal without it.
If I was fishing tournaments and stuff and I really knew how to, like, everything about the electronics and how the fish are going to react with literally every single bait.
Yep.
And I'm, like, so dead set on watching the biggest fish out of that school eat on tournament day, yeah, maybe I'll get it. But I'm still a kid at heart, and I still love the surprise of getting bit.
Yep.
That's what makes the fun of fishing.
But I think that's where we would differ than most other people. Because I know we've talked to TJ about that, and he gets lost. So Smallmouth Freaks, he's the guy we're going to have on next week. And, I mean, and he says it himself, I'm not just saying this for the sake of saying it. He was like, you guys kicked the shit out of me that day out there in Vermont. Because I got so hung up on staring at that, I wasn't just fishing and feeling what was going on. I was too hung up on looking for that real live feedback. And I got lost in it. Where I think you and I would use it just like we use the 360. Look down, like pull up on a spot. Are they even here? Instead of wasting 20 to 30 minutes fishing a spot, like especially in a tournament situation.
Run up, boom, 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 they're here. Okay, 360, what are they holding over?
Yep. It's another tool. And in the right hands, it's a dangerous thing, just like anything else. But if you don't know what you're doing, then what good is it? And an excellent angler is still going to be excellent. It just, to me, seems like they're going to look a lot better than they are because they've already eliminated dead water that much faster.
Right.
So their results are going to be a lot better because their time management becomes that much faster. That's my opinion on the forward-facing sonar. I, however, can tell you right now that I am 110% going to buy it the first chance I get because I am a tech whore. I love all things technology. I seriously, like, I can't get my hands on enough techie shit. So if you could see the studio, you would know this. I've got
Jesus Christ,
like a $3,000 PC that I built on my own dime years ago. And I love that thing. My kid's using my old, what used to be a $3,000 PC, which is now basically a $500 brick. It still works though. It's still got a good video card in it and everything. Dude, like,
that's expensive.
I mean, really?
Don't drop it.
Granted, you guys paid for this, but like, this is so overkill for what we do, but it's fucking awesome. That's just what we use to manage all the audio for the stream, and it makes my life so much easier. It's totally unnecessary. I love technology. I love cool, new, fancy shit. So the first chance I get with it, I'm absolutely buying it. But I know I'm also not going to get lost in it because that's just not how we fish. It's just another tool to provide information for what it is that we already want to do.
2D. Shut up.
No, we don't. Only when we're specifically trying. Only when I'm trying to make that Demiki rig work.
I know. But
yeah, South Jersey said it perfect. It's just another tool that can help you like any other thing. If you can afford it, you probably should get it. If you're a pro angler, it just makes sense. Yep.
Right.
And then Tim, I guess my point is, although I've been using one, I can understand the position of those guys that are against it. Yeah, and that's fair enough. I absolutely get you on that. See, now we're going down a side road, and we're already 20 minutes later than we usually are.
Yeah, we're done.
As much as I love this, but before we go, last chance. Was there anything specific about breaking down new water that we didn't cover? We essentially tried to take 4 overarching themes and main points to this and expand the hell out of everything. But most importantly, we spent the majority of the time talking about what you should do before you even leave your damn house. And I really hope a lot of people understood that for those that are trying to get into breaking down or just fishing new places in general, but trying to be more efficient at it. Dude, it all starts at home before you even leave the house. That's where most of your work's going to be. And then you wrap up the rest of it on the water. It's the refinement that comes on the water, but the preparation comes before you even leave the damn house. Actually sounded kind of smart.
I wasn't listening.
You weren't working a jig. What's your excuse now?
I wasn't listening. I was reading.
Tim, if I set up a trampoline under a basketball hoop, then it becomes just another tool to help me dunk.
Yeah. Duh.
Jim B, tech whore, but a financial angel. I'm the tech whore. My wife's the financial angel, which is why I don't have that.
I like the first one. I am tech angel, whore, but a financial. I like that one. That's me. I'm a financial mess, and I'm a
John, thank you very much, buddy. We appreciate it. I don't know. Yeah, is there anything else you guys want us to cover last minute here before we wrap it up? But Randy Chad. Randy can F right off. Ford sonar is weird, but it works. Super weird. Do it. Effing weird. S. Poop mouth. Ron, why'd you say that? Poop mouth.
Poop mouth. What was that song?
Anchorman.
Oh yeah.
Off San Diego.
Fuck you, San Diego. All right. Well,
Okay.
if you had enough of what he was saying,
Wrap it up. Thank you very much, South Jersey. You know what? If we see another question come in, by all means, keep it coming. Don't be bashful. But otherwise, let's wrap this shit up, buddy. It's getting late.
we are gonna have a very good stream next week, next week,
week?
Wednesday at 8:00 on YouTube.com/603bass with our good buddy TJ Stang, Smallmouth Freaks, the man,
Don't close it up
the
yet.
legend. What are you doing?
Keep going.
I'm
Do
done
everything
talking.
except for like the very final bye.
I said bye, but don't leave yet, because he needs to share something with you again.
I've got the schedule sorted out from now through July 21st.
Cool.
So for everybody that's stuck around, all 34 of you, which by the way, awesome. Thank you very much. And if I'm gonna keep asking. If
By
you
the
haven't
way,
done it yet,
I nailed that intro in the middle of a sentence.
I'm
that
proud of you.
exit. Nailed it.
First time ever.
In a long time.
First time in a long time. If you guys haven't done it yet before you go, please leave a like on the stream. It really does help greatly. Now I get the hiccups. Okay, so for those that did stick around, right before we leave, you get the sneak peek on what we have coming up for all these. And then for everybody that are channel members, I'm going to put up a thing in the next day or two to give more detail that you otherwise wouldn't get unless you're a channel member. And that's going to be in pertaining to all these upcoming streams and other plans that we have. And we're going to be looking for some feedback on some of these too. So like Brian, you're going to get some information on that real soon, buddy. So next week we have Breaking Down New Water with Smallmouth Freaks from Instagram. Our buddy Tom, he's a wicked good dude, knows his shit.
Breaking down new water.
Incredibly good angler. Huh?
Breaking down new water. Is that what,
Is that what I just said? Sorry. Forward-facing sonar. My bad. And then the week after that, so that's July 29th, doing forward-facing sonar. I'm looking at my notes in the back. July 6th, we're doing an interview with pro angler Brad Luthner, which I really, really hope I pronounce his last name right. There's a lot of people I talk to where I only ever get to say their first name, so I get a chance to say their last name to get corrected. I'm sorry, Brad, if I got it wrong. But Brad Luthner, who has fished a whole host of tournaments, he's done most recently all the Bass Nation Opens. So that's one of the things we'd asked earlier in the year was what you want to see more of. And one of the resounding responses we got was more regionally diverse guests. And this should be a really interesting one. He was recently on Big Bass Streams, so I know he's a good dude. Got to watch quite a bit of his stream with those guys as well. So he's going to be great to have on. So that is, I can't read, July 6th. The following week, July 13th, we're going to do an interview with a local swim bait builder, Sherpa Swim Baits, Passan.
Yeah, I met him at the expo.
Yep. So we're actually going to fish with him up on Winnie this year.
Really?
We actually might be able to get some sweet-ass night fishing in with him if we want. I've got some other news for you, by the way.
Okay.
So that's going to happen July 13th. So then July 20th, we're not doing a stream. That's that Wednesday. July 21st or the 22nd, I don't know. Anyway, we leave town like pretty much right after you get out of work that Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's 6:15 is my guess. I'm hoping you'll have all your crap packed and in your truck. I can just come pick you up.
Yeah.
Like I'll be in the parking lot waiting. I'll go in and yell at your boss, "Let him go! We gotta get on the road. We have a 4-hour drive." But we're heading up to Champlain for the whole weekend. We're gonna be up there with Oliver and Riley at Big Bass Streams. Joe is gonna be up there as well. I still have to talk to them, but I'm hoping that we can do one of the streams from there. But we are not even gonna be in town Wednesday night, so that is the plan for that. And then following that on July 27th, we will be doing a whole recap
Maybe
of the
we can
Vermont
live
trip.
stream on the way up, just like on the cell phone.
Probably
on
because
YouTube.
we get great service the whole way up on 89.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, maybe we'll do a live stream from the road. We'll have to figure out a better way to mount my phone, which is easy with those new clamps that we have.
Boom. Perfect.
Anyway, that's it. Do your outro again. We're out.
8:00. Wednesday nights, Eastern Time, youtube.com/603bass. Be there, be square. Don't miss it.
Everyone, have a wonderful night. Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much for the support.
See you, bye.
Catch you next week.
Later, bye.